I didn't notice the day my life started to slow down. There was no clear moment, no announcement, no line drawn in the sand. It happened quietly, the way most real changes do. One day I was moving through the world without thinking about my body, my routines, my habits. And then, little by little, I realized I was thinking about them all the time. Not in a fearful way, just in a noticing way. I started to see that aging doesn't arrive like a storm. It arrives like a gentle fog. So light at first, you don't even realize you're walking into it. And along the way, we pick up small habits, comfortable habits, reasonable habits, habits that feel like kindness to ourselves. But sometimes, those same habits quietly work against us. Not out of malice, not out of neglect, just out of familiarity. Stopwatch equals 2S. One of the first things I noticed was how much time I spent sitting. It felt earned. After decades of work, of responsibility, of rushing from one thing to another, sitting down felt like a reward. I would tell myself, I've done enough. I deserve this rest. And in many ways, that was true. Rest is not laziness. Rest is wisdom. But over time, I realized something gentle and uncomfortable. The more I sat, the harder it became to stand. The longer I stayed still, the less steady I felt when I moved. Not all at once, not dramatically, just a quiet stiffness in the morning, a little less balance, a little more hesitation. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was doing what felt natural. But I started to wonder if rest and stillness had slowly become the same thing in my mind. So now, instead of telling myself I have to move more, I tell myself something softer. I can rest and still move a little. Not as a rule, not as a demand, just as a kindness to the body that's still carrying me. Stopwatch equals 2S. Another habit crept in without me noticing. When the doctor asked questions, I answered, but not always honestly. Not because I wanted to lie, not because I didn't care, but because I didn't want to seem like a complainer. I would say, "Oh, it's nothing. I'm fine. It's just old age." And part of me meant it. I didn't want to be dramatic. I didn't want to waste anyone's time. I didn't want to feel like a burden. But later, alone with my thoughts, I would admit to myself, it actually does hurt. It actually is bothering me. It actually does make my day harder. I realized I had turned politeness into silence, not to protect anyone else, but to protect my pride. So now, when I'm asked how I'm feeling, I try to answer just a little more honestly. Not with fear, not with complaints, just with truth. Because being strong doesn't mean pretending nothing hurts. Sometimes it means admitting what does. Stopwatch equals 2S. Then there's food. I've eaten the same kinds of meals for years. Familiar foods, comfort foods, the kind of meals that feel like home. There's something deeply soothing about eating what you've always eaten. It feels stable. It feels predictable. It feels safe. And there's nothing wrong with that. But over time, I noticed my body responding differently than it used to. Heavier, slower, more tired after meals. The same foods that once gave me comfort now left me feeling weighed down. Not because they were bad, not because I was doing something wrong, just because my body had changed and my habits hadn't. So instead of telling myself I had to eat better, I made a gentler agreement with myself. I can keep my familiar foods and add one small new thing. Not to punish myself, not to fix myself, just to meet my body where it is now, not where it used to be. Stopwatch equals 2S. Drinking water became another quiet habit I didn't think about. When I was younger, thirst told me everything I needed to know. I felt thirsty. I drank. Simple. But now, thirst feels different. Sometimes I don't feel thirsty at all. And yet I feel tired, foggy, stiff, or a little off. For a long time, I assumed that meant something was wrong with me. Then I realized maybe I just wasn't drinking enough water anymore. Not because I didn't care, but because my body wasn't sending the same signals. So now I don't wait for thirst to remind me. I don't force anything. I just take a few sips more often, as a quiet way of saying to myself, I'm still paying attention to you. Stopwatch equals 2S. Another habit that slipped in quietly was staying indoors more and more. It felt practical. Too hot, too cold, too much trouble, too many people. And after a lifetime of going places because I had to, staying home felt like freedom. It felt peaceful. But over time, I noticed something else. The less I went outside, the smaller my world started to feel. The days blurred together more. The weeks passed faster. Not because anything bad was happening, but because nothing new was happening. So now, I don't tell myself I have to go out every day. I just tell myself, it might be nice to step outside, even for 5 minutes. Not to accomplish anything, not to go anywhere special, just to remind myself that the world is still there, and I am still part of it. Stopwatch equals 2S. There's another habit that took me longer to recognize. Holding stress quietly. All my life, I learned to handle things on my own. To not worry anyone. To not make things bigger than they needed to be. So when something troubled me, I kept it inside. I told myself, it's fine. I can deal with it. It'll pass. And sometimes it did. But sometimes it didn't. Sometimes it just settled deeper into my body. Into my shoulders, my stomach, my sleep, not as pain, but as a constant low-level tension. So now, instead of keeping everything to myself, I try to say one small thing out loud, not to complain, not to seek solutions, just to be heard. Because carrying everything alone is not strength. It's just heavy. Stopwatch equals 2S. None of these habits are bad. None of them mean we failed. They are human habits, aging habits, survival habits. They come from wisdom, from experience, from a desire for comfort and peace. But sometimes, even wise habits need gentle updating. Not through force, not through fear, just through awareness. Stopwatch equals 2S. I've learned that aging isn't about giving up who you are. It's about meeting yourself again as someone new, someone with different needs, different limits, different rhythms. And that doesn't mean your life is shrinking. It just means it's changing shape. Stopwatch equals 2S. There's still room for small choices, not big resolutions, not dramatic overhauls, just small, quiet decisions that say, I still care about this life I'm living. I still want to feel as good as I reasonably can. I still matter to myself. Stopwatch equals 2S. So I'll leave you with a gentle question. Not to answer out loud. Not to rush into. Just to sit with. Is there one small habit in your day that you might look at differently tomorrow? Not to judge it. Just to notice it. Stopwatch equals 2S. And see what happens.